In his 1994 book, The Western Canon, Harold Bloom, a very influential Western critic, tried to revive the traditional European and English canon, by which we mean, a set of works which are thought to be of great literary merit or aesthetic merit in a given culture. So the idea of this, the traditional canon that all these great authors and all, as you know, these have been increasingly discredited with the advent of uh, different theories, schools of theories like feminism, post-colonialism and all that, but also by critical theory in general. After postmodernism, deconstruction and all that, what is great? How do we assume that things are great? All these things are there. Now, Harold Bloom, who has been a deconstructionist actually earlier, we belong to the Yale School of Deconstruction, so called. Increasingly, he became more and more traditional as he, you know, advanced in his age and career. Possibly the same is happening with me also, though Bloom is a very great figure, nobody near him, but still. So, in the Western canon published in 1994, he quite controversially tried to revive all these figures, Chaucer, Johnson, Shakespeare, Dante, and all that, saying that they were really great, nothing political about them, and left out most of the new authors. And somewhere, yes, he had praised Toni Morrison, but not for what actually Toni Morrison wanted to be the core of her work, racism and all these things. But again, universalist terms. Anyway, so Bloom stated in the Western canon that Shakespeare or Dante are the center of the Western canon. And in fact, he went a little further and said that Shakespeare is the center of the canon, not the Western canon, the world canon. All this universalizing tendency of Europe and the West. Bloom was in America, the Western. So this, anyways, the whole Western discourses. So how presumptuous, how audacious, we don't know, but we'll just try to read because I don't remember the lines. This is very interesting. Bloom says that there is something in Shakespeare which surpasses age, surpasses time, surpasses all cultural specificities. These are the things that have been said long back by Shakespeare's contemporary Ben Jonson and reinforced by successive generations of critics. Ben Jonson, if you remember, had said that thou art not for an age but for all ages. Exact words I may have forgotten. So he universalized Shakespeare for the first time in a great way. Then Milton, Wordsworth, and all these people continued. Now, but then after all these theories and all, Shakespeare suffered. For example, Marxist theories found him to be an ally of the emergent capitalism, majority of them. Though from our India, Utpal Datta, he was among of those few Marxist critics who countered this and stated that Shakespeare was a Marxist. I know it is paradoxical. Marx came much later, but Utpal Datta left no stone unturned, as we say, to prove that Shakespeare, came nearer Marx than any other author. That was, of course, his personal bias too. There was Utpal Datta's. But anyway, what Bloom says is that there is a substance in Shakespeare that prevails and that has proved multicultural, so universally apprehended in all languages as to have established a pragmatic multiculturalism around the globe, one that already far surpasses our political fumblings towards an ideal. Shakespeare is the center of the embryo of a world canon, not Western or Eastern and less Eurocentric. So, world canon, embryo, center is Shakespeare, Bloom says in 1994 book. The Western canon. We reject that. I reject that. Though I personally love Shakespeare and Shakespeare is many things, but we cannot say that Shakespeare contains everything. It is like that, you know, uh, religious belief that in my text or my gospel everything is cannot be. Shakespeare doesn't talk about the cyber world, it's computer. Though we somehow try to show him as a post-colonial thinker, yes, that thing is there in the Tempest. It's not that there's everything in Shakespeare. This universalist tendency or universalizing tendency is something which is deeply problematic, and the universality of Shakespeare, as Said had said in an essay in Reflections on Exile, and others too, has also been possible due to the fact that the British colonized at one point of time almost up to 80 to 85%, my statistics may, but major part of the globe, and they carried Shakespeare wherever they went because Shakespeare was a safe choice for different reasons. And finally he showed Shakespeare, whereas while he showed bad monarchs and all, he did not question monarchy actually. Finally, he always showed the order was restored in Hamlet, you see, or King Lear, whatever. New order is coming, so monarchy is intact. So this is one of the reasons why the British government frowned colonial government. Shakespeare a safe choice. There were more radical people later. So Milton was one, but Shakespeare one of the possible causes of so Bloom, you know it's an act of oversight, intentional. He loses sight of the fact and says that there is something intrinsically great in Shakespeare, which you know has in it already whatever can be said or will be said or such and such a thing, and this is his bias. So there's a chapter, Shakespeare the center of the canon, in his book The Western Canon. And today, when we are looking at the canon debate again more fiercely, we should also concentrate on these attempts at revalidating the Eurocentric canon, or what even many Europeans themselves have called canon based on prioritizing the writings of dead white male Europeans, patriarchal, racist, white. Yes, Shakespeare leaves many things open. Shylock's voice is also recorded. But do you think that Shakespeare really meant Shylock to be, you know, just meant to record Shylock's view on humanist grounds? May not be so. Huh. You need not go far, but you can just read Andrew Sanders, who is obviously an European British author, short history of Oxford History of English Literature, short Oxford History. Then Shakespeare chapter, you see that Shakespeare's audience, contemporaries, would have laughed at Shylock and taken all this only as comic gestures. It is our reading that we are trying to fit some kind of a universal humanism into these articulations by, you know, Shylock, for instance. The case of Caliban is a little more complicated. I'll speak about it in another video because these days people's attention span is also lessening. So I don't want to make a very long video. But I think there is some food of thought that I have given. I have challenged Bloom's contention hereby that Shakespeare is the center of the world canon, he says. Not even Eastern, Western, or Eurocentric. He is the center. So please feel free to share your views. Thank you so much.